I stepped off the plane from Italy with a heart full of stories and a camera roll bursting with content for my travel vlog. 2 weeks of exploring hidden trattorias and ancient villages had given me exactly what I needed for my next series. My name is Avery, and until today, I thought I had finally figured out how to balance my dream job with my marriage. The first sign something was wrong came when Eric didn't answer my texts after I landed. Usually, he'd send at least a quick, "Welcome back," or ask when to pick me up. Instead, I got radio silence and had to grab an Uber home. No big deal, I told myself. He was probably stuck in a meeting or something. The second red flag hit me when I saw his mother's car in our driveway. "Hello?" I called out, dragging my suitcase through the front door. The house felt different somehow, tense, like the air before a storm. I found them sitting in our living room like they were waiting for a funeral to start. Eric perched on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped together so tight his knuckles were white. His mother Lorraine sat next to him, ramrod straight in her designer pantsuit, lips pressed into that thin line I'd grown to hate over the years. "Welcome home, dear," Lorraine said, in that syrupy voice that always meant trouble was coming. Eric wouldn't look at me. "We need to talk, Avery." My stomach dropped. I'd seen enough movies to know nothing good ever followed those words. "What's going on?" "Your lifestyle," Lorraine began, gesturing vaguely at my travel-worn appearance. "It's becoming concerning." I let out a laugh that probably sounded more nervous than I intended. "My lifestyle? You mean my job? The one that's finally taking off?" "That's exactly what we mean." Eric finally looked up, and something in his eyes made me take a step back. "This isn't sustainable, Avery. The constant traveling, the irregular income, living out of a suitcase. It's not how a marriage is supposed to work." "Not how a marriage is supposed to work?" I echoed, my voice rising. "My channel just hit 500,000 subscribers. I'm making more now than I did in corporate marketing." Lorraine cleared her throat. "Money isn't everything, dear. What about starting a family? Putting down roots?" "We agreed to wait on kids," I said to Eric, ignoring his mother. "You said you supported this." "I supported a hobby," he replied, standing up. "But this has gone too far. I need stability, Avery. A real wife, not someone who's gone more than she's home." The word "real" hit me like a slap. I noticed then that there were papers on the coffee table. Legal papers. "What is this?" I asked, though I already knew. "An ultimatum," Eric said quietly. "Either you give up the vlog and commit to building a real life here with me, or what?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Or we end this now, before we waste any more time." I picked up the papers with trembling hands. Divorce papers already filled out with everything except my signature. "You did this while I was gone?" I looked between them, reality crashing down around me. "You waited until I was out of the country to plan this?" "We knew you wouldn't be reasonable if we tried to discuss it normally," Lorraine said, as if that made it better. I stood there, still in my travel clothes, jet-lagged and shell-shocked, looking at these two people who claimed to love me, plotting to strip away everything I'd built for myself. "I need time to think," I managed to say, backing toward the stairs. "I can't. I need time." "Don't take too long," Lorraine called after me. "Eric deserves an answer." I made it to our bedroom before the tears started, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry ones. As I sat on the edge of our bed, still clutching those papers, something shifted inside me. They thought they could force me to choose? Fine, but they weren't going to like the choice I made. I pulled out my phone and opened my messages to Mia. "You won't believe what just happened. Can I crash at your place tonight?" Mia's spare bedroom became my sanctuary that night. I sat cross-legged on her guest bed, surrounded by takeout containers while she paced the room, her creative director energy in full force as she processed my story. "So let me get this straight," she said, gesturing with a spring roll. "They ambushed you with divorce papers because you're too successful? According to them, it's about stability." I stabbed at my pad thai. "Eric says he wants a real wife." "Oh, honey." Mia sat beside me. "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Eric's face appeared on the screen. I'd been dodging his calls all evening, but something made me answer this time. "Where are you?" His voice was tight. Mother's worried sick. I almost laughed. Mother's worried? I'm the one who came home to an intervention. Just come home. We can talk about this rationally. Rationally? The word tasted bitter. Like how you rationally waited until I was out of the country to plan this with your mother? That's not fair. I've been trying to talk to you about this for months. No, you've been dropping hints about how my work isn't serious enough. There's a difference. Silence stretched between us. Then, I got a promotion. What? Senior partner. They announced it while you were gone. It means more responsibility, more stability. We could finally start that family mothers always. Stop. My hand tightened around the phone. Just stop. This isn't about your promotion or your mother's wants. This is about control. Don't be dramatic, Avery. I'm trying to build a future for us. No, you're trying to build the future you and your mother want. Did you even watch any of my Italy videos? More silence. Of course he hadn't. I have to go, I said. I'm working on editing my new content. See? This is exactly what I mean. You're always working on your little videos instead of. I hung up. Mia watched me carefully. You okay? I need my laptop. I was already pulling it out of my bag. Remember that amazing grandmother I met in Tuscany? The one who taught me her family's secret pasta recipe. Yeah? I'm posting that video tonight. Not next week like I planned. My fingers flew over the keyboard. With a special dedication. Avery. Mia's voice held a warning note. To all the women who were told their dreams weren't practical enough. I typed in the description. And to those who tried to clip their wings. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. The video had gone viral overnight, with comments pouring in from women sharing their own stories of being pressured to give up their passions for someone else's comfort. Then came the text from Eric. My colleagues saw your video. Was that really necessary? I was crafting a response when another message appeared, this one from Lorraine. You're embarrassing this family. Eric deserves better than your childish attention-seeking. My hands shook as I typed back. Family? You mean the one trying to force me to choose between my identity and your approval? We're trying to help you grow up, she replied. One day you'll thank us. I screenshot the exchange and sent it to Mia with the caption, watch me grow up and away from this toxicity. Later that afternoon, I sat in my favorite coffee shop, editing my next video when Jackson, my mentor in the vlogging world, slid into the seat across from me. Saw your Tuscany piece, he said, pushing a fresh latte toward me. Powerful stuff. You okay? Getting there. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. Did you know they had those papers ready before I even left for Italy? Jackson's eyebrows shot up. That's cold. Yeah. I took a sip of coffee. But you know what's colder? I just checked our joint account. Eric moved most of our savings to his personal account while I was gone too. Jesus. Jackson leaned back. What are you going to do? I opened my laptop, showing him the draft of my next video, a behind-the-scenes look at how I built my brand from scratch. I'm going to remind them that they're not the only ones who know how to plan ahead. The coffee shop's window reflected my smile, and for the first time since coming home, it didn't feel forced. They wanted to play hardball? Game on. I never meant to find the emails. I'd only logged into our shared computer to download some backup footage when a notification popped up from Eric's account. Usually, I'd ignore it, but the subject line caught my eye. Concerns about Avery. My hands hovered over the keyboard. This was wrong. This was invasion of privacy. This was exactly what I needed to do. The email chain between Eric and his mother went back months. Before Italy. Before the ultimatum. Before everything. She's becoming more distant, Eric had written 3 months ago. Every time she leaves for these trips, she comes back different. More independent. Less willing to listen to reason. Lorraine's response made my stomach turn. That's why we need to act now, dear. Before she completely loses sight of her real responsibilities. I've spoken with Sarah at the firm. There's still an opening in the marketing department if we can convince her to give up this internet fantasy. They'd planned it all. The job. The intervention. Everything. They'd even discussed ways to make my vlogging more difficult, accidentally deleting footage, scheduling family events during my editing time. guilt-tripping me about travel expenses despite my channel's revenue. I was still staring at the screen when my phone buzzed. Eric, coming home tonight? His voice was carefully neutral. Mother's making her pot roast. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm meeting with my lawyer. Silence. Then, lawyer. Yes, to discuss the interesting emails I just found. The ones about sabotaging my career. You went through my emails? His voice rose. That's private. Private like plotting with your mother to destroy my business? Private like arranging a job for me without my knowledge. We were trying to help you. Help me. I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. By going behind my back? By treating me like a child who can't make her own decisions. You're being irrational. No, I'm being crystal clear. For the first time in our marriage, I'm seeing everything perfectly. I took a deep breath. I'm sending you a link to my latest video. You should watch it. Mother too. I hung up before he could respond and opened my editing software. The footage I'd been saving for next week would work perfectly for today instead. I'd filmed it in a tiny restaurant in Rome, interviewing a female chef who'd fought her entire family to follow her culinary dreams. 3 hours later, the video went live, breaking free when family doesn't mean support. In the description, I included screenshots of select emails, carefully edited to protect private information, but clear enough to show the manipulation. My phone exploded immediately. First came Lorraine's text. Take that down immediately or you'll regret it. Then Eric, you've gone too far. Mother's crying. Finally, a message from an unknown number. Saw your video. I'm a producer with Travel Network. Let's talk. I screenshotted the producer's message and sent it to both Eric and Lorraine with one line. Funny how my internet fantasy keeps proving you wrong. Mia called moments later. Girl, you're trending. Have you seen the comments? I hadn't. I opened the video and felt tears well up as I read them. Hundreds of women sharing similar stories of family members trying to clip their wings, of partners who couldn't handle their success, of mothers-in-law who saw independence as a threat. I never wanted this fight, I told Mia. I just wanted to share the world with people. Sometimes the biggest fights find us when we're just trying to be ourselves, she replied. You coming to the studio tomorrow? Jackson's offering to help you film a follow-up. I glanced at the divorce papers still sitting in my bag, then at the producer's message on my phone. Yeah, I'll be there. I think it's time to show them exactly what happens when you try to cage someone who was born to fly. My laptop pinged with another email notification. Lorraine again, probably with more threats or guilt trips. I closed the browser without reading it. They'd had months to scheme and plot against me. Now it was my turn to write the story, and this time, I was making sure it had a different ending. The meeting with the Travel Network producer went better than I could have dreamed. Sitting in Jackson's studio, I stared at the contract in front of me, my hands shaking slightly as I read through the terms. They want to do a whole series? Mia paced behind me, practically vibrating with excitement. About women breaking free from traditional expectations around the world? 6 episodes to start, I confirmed, still processing it myself. Each featuring a different country and different stories of women who chose their dreams over society's demands. Jackson leaned against his editing desk. This is huge, Avery. Like, life-changing huge. My phone buzzed. Eric again. I'd been dodging his calls since the email expose, but this time I answered. What? Mother's in the hospital. My heart stuttered. What happened? Anxiety attack. After your little stunt with those emails went viral, her church group started asking questions. She couldn't handle the shame. The guilt hit hard, exactly as he intended. That's not fair, Eric. Fair? Was it fair to expose private family matters to the world? To humiliate us both for some internet fame? I looked at the contract on the table, then at my friends watching with concern. No. What wasn't fair was you two plotting behind my back to destroy my career. What wasn't fair was, she's asking for you, he interrupted. Says she needs to explain something. Something about her own mother. I caught Mia's eye, saw her subtle head shake of warning. I can't. I have a meeting. More important than family? You lost the right to play the family card when you chose your mother's happiness over your wife's. Silence stretched between us. Then I saw the video. The one about the chef in Rome. You actually watched it? Yes. His voice softened. She reminded me of you. Passionate. Determined. A pause. Scared of disappointing everyone. My throat tightened. I'm not scared anymore. I know. That's what terrifies me. After we hung up, I stared at my phone until Jackson cleared his throat. You okay? They're trying to pull me back in, I said. Using guilt, using family, using everything they know about me. What are you going to do? I picked up the contract. I'm going to sign this. Then I'm going to visit my mother-in-law. Avery, Mia started, but I cut her off. Not because they guilt-tripped me, but because I need her to see something. An hour later, I walked into Lorraine's hospital room, laptop under my arm. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in the hospital gown. Eric wasn't there, probably at work, keeping up appearances. Come to finish what you started? Her voice was weak, but still carried that edge. No. I set up my laptop. I came to show you something. I pulled up the rough cut of my next video, interviews with my followers sharing their stories of breaking free. Women who started businesses in their 50s, who went back to school after divorce, who traveled the world solo after years of being told they couldn't. These are the lives you wanted to prevent, I said quietly. These are the dreams you tried to crush because they scared you. You don't understand. But I do, because they told me about the Lorraines in their lives too. The women who tried to keep them small because they never got the chance to be big themselves. Her face crumpled. My mother didn't let you pursue art school. I know. Eric told me once. Tears slid down her cheeks. I was trying to protect you from disappointment. No, I closed the laptop. You were trying to protect yourself from regret. But it's not too late, Lorraine. Not for either of us. I left the contract on her bedside table as I walked out. Let her see what her daughter-in-law was capable of. Let her understand what she'd tried to stop. My phone buzzed with a text from the producer. When can you start filming? I smiled as I typed back. How soon do you need me? Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. Sometimes it's about building your own so magnificently that they have to watch from the sidelines, knowing they tried to stop it from existing. The dinner was my idea. One last attempt at reconciliation, I told myself, though deep down I knew it was more about proving something. I'd spent the afternoon cooking a traditional Italian feast, recreating recipes I'd learned in Tuscany. The same recipes that had helped launch my channel's success. Eric arrived first, wearing the careful expression of a man walking into a minefield. Smells good. Thanks. I kept my focus on plating the osso buco. Your mother here yet? She's parking. Avery. He stepped closer. About the hospital visit. The doorbell cut him off. Lorraine swept in, designer handbag clutched like a shield. Well, isn't this quaint? I'd set the dining room table with my best dishes, candles flickering against the growing darkness outside. The travel network contract sat beside my plate and signed, but impossible to ignore. I made everything from scratch, I said, serving the food, including the recipes I learned from that grandmother in Florence. The one whose video you both refused to watch. Lorraine picked up her fork with practiced elegance. Dear, about that contract. Let's eat first, Eric interrupted. Can we just have one normal family dinner? Normal. The word tasted bitter. Like the normal life you planned for me behind my back? Avery, Lorraine's voice carried that familiar warning tone. We've apologized. What more do you want? Apologized? I set down my wine glass harder than intended. You had an anxiety attack and played the victim. Eric blamed me for humiliating you. Neither of you has actually apologized. Because there's nothing to apologize for, Eric snapped. We were trying to help you. Help me. I pulled out my phone, opening my analytics app. My channel has over 1 million subscribers now. The video about that Roman chef? It paid for this dinner. The series about breaking free from toxic expectations? It's funding my lawyer. Lorraine's fork clattered against her plate. Lawyer, did you think I wouldn't fight back? I turned to Eric. Did you really believe I'd just give up everything I've built because you and your mother decided it wasn't proper enough? We decided? Eric laughed, but it wasn't kind. You decided years ago that your internet fame was more important than our marriage. Internet fame? I stood up, hands shaking. I built a business. I created something meaningful. While you two were plotting to cage me in some corporate job, I was helping other women find their voice. And what about my voice? Eric stood too. What about what I wanted? What you wanted? I gestured at Lorraine. Or what she wanted for you. Don't you dare, Lorraine started, but I cut her off. No, I'm done being polite. I'm done pretending this is about family or stability or whatever excuse you're using this week. This is about control. This is about you being so scared of change that you'd rather destroy your son's marriage than let him be happy with someone who doesn't fit your mold. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Then Lorraine reached for her bag, pulling out a familiar document. The contract I'd left at the hospital. You want to know what I think about your success? She ripped the contract in half. I watched the pieces flutter to the table, something breaking and reforming inside me. Thank you. Thank you. Eric looked confused. Yes. I walked to my office, returning with another copy of the contract, this one already signed. Thank you for finally showing me who you really are. Both of you. What does that mean? Lorraine's voice wavered. It means I start filming next week. In Paris. I picked up the torn contract pieces. And when I get back, I won't be coming home. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. Avery, wait. Eric reached for me, but I stepped back. I made tiramisu for dessert, I said, gathering my keys and phone. Enjoy it. Consider it a parting gift, proof that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well. I walked out of my house for the last time, leaving them with their cold osso buco and shattered expectations. In my car, I texted Mia, "It's done. Can you help me pack tomorrow?" Her response was immediate. "Proud of you. Wine and boxes are ready whenever you are." I started the engine, watching the dining room lights through the window. Sometimes you have to burn bridges to stop yourself from crossing them again. The morning I planned to leave for Paris, I woke up to find my YouTube channel gone. Not just a video or two, the entire channel had vanished. 5 years of work, over 1 million subscribers, everything that proved I wasn't just playing at success, disappeared overnight. My hands shook as I called Jackson. Someone hacked me. Everything's gone. I'm on it, he said. But Avery, there's more. Check your email. The travel network's message was brief, due to concerns about recent controversies and channel instability. We regret to inform you that we must withdraw our offer. My phone buzzed with a text from Eric. Mother knows people in television. Maybe now you'll understand what real stability means. I sat on Mia's guest bed, surrounded by half-packed boxes, trying to breathe. They'd finally done it. They'd found a way to clip my wings. We can fight this, Mia said, pacing the room. Jackson knows cybersecurity people. We can prove. Prove what? My voice cracked. That my mother-in-law has connections? That my husband's firm probably handled the network's accounts? They made it look legitimate. Clean. My phone kept buzzing. Followers asking what happened. Collaborators wondering about planned projects. Each notification felt like another brick in the wall they were building around me. Then came Lorraine's call. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ready to be reasonable? Her voice dripped with false concern. Eric's willing to forget all this unpleasantness. The marketing position is still open. Did you enjoy it? My voice was eerily calm. Destroying something I built just because you couldn't control it? Oh, darling. We saved you from yourself. From this fantasy world you'd created. Real life isn't about gallivanting around the globe, pretending to be something you're not. The only pretending I did was trying to be the daughter-in-law you wanted. Come home, Avery. Stop this foolishness. I ended the call and turned to Mia. I need your camera. What? Your camera. And help me set up my phone to record. Understanding dawned in her eyes. They can take down your channel, but they can't stop me from starting over. I was already pulling out my laptop. Call Jackson. Tell him to bring his equipment. We're doing this live. An hour later, we had a makeshift studio set up in Mia's living room. 3 cameras, proper lighting, and a determination I hadn't felt since my first video. Going live in 3, 2. Jackson gave me the signal. Hi, I'm Avery Quinn, and this isn't my usual setup. This morning, I woke up to find my channel deleted. 5 years of work, gone. Why? Because I refused to give up my dreams to fit someone else's idea of success. My hands were steady now as I looked directly into the camera. To my mother-in-law, who thinks she's teaching me a lesson about stability, thank you. You've taught me that true stability comes from within, not from following someone else's rules. To my soon-to-be ex-husband, who chose control over love, thank you. You've shown me that sometimes losing everything is the first step to gaining something better. And to everyone watching, this is what starting over looks like. This is what they don't tell you about following your dreams. Sometimes people will try to stop you. Sometimes they'll succeed. But they can never take away your voice unless you let them. The viewer count kept climbing. Comments flooded in. Stories of similar experiences, offers of help, messages of support. Then came a comment that made my blood freeze. Lying about your family for views? Pathetic. Hope you're ready for legal consequences. Eric's law firm's official account. I stared at the threat, feeling the walls close in again. They could destroy my career, my reputation, everything I'd built. They had the resources, the connections, the power. But as I looked at the growing support in the comments, at Mia and Jackson standing firmly beside me, I realized something. They could take away my platform, but they couldn't take away my story. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't fighting back, it's refusing to be silenced. I looked back at the camera, straightened my shoulders, and smiled. So, who wants to hear about a little cafe in Paris I'll be visiting next week? The viewer count hit 100,000 and kept climbing. The Netflix email arrived 3 months into my Paris stay. Not just an offer, a full series deal. 6 episodes, international production, complete creative control. Everything Eric and Lorraine had tried to destroy was rising from the ashes, stronger than before. I hadn't expected them to show up at my Paris apartment. But there they were, standing in my doorway like ghosts from a life I'd left behind. Impressive view, Lorraine said, pushing past me into the sunlit space. The firm's been following your recovery with interest. Eric lingered by the door, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. We saw the Netflix announcement. Did you? I kept my voice neutral, though my hands itched to grab my phone and start recording. Funny how life works out sometimes. Darling, Lorraine settled onto my couch like she owned it. We've been thinking. Perhaps we were. Hasty in our approach. Hasty? I laughed, the sound echoing off the Parisian walls. You destroyed my channel. Threatened me with legal action. Tried to force me into submission. And look how well you've landed on your feet. She smiled, all teeth. Thanks to our motivation. Mother, Eric warned, but she waved him off. The family name still carries weight, she continued. We could help with the Netflix project. Open doors. Make introductions. I walked to my window, looking out at the Eiffel Tower in the distance. Why are you really here? The firm's struggling, Eric admitted quietly. Your story. It resonated with people. Clients are asking questions about how we handled things. So this isn't about reconciliation, I turned back to them. It's about damage control. It's about family, Lorraine insisted. About putting the past behind us and moving forward. Together. My phone buzzed, a reminder about today's shoot. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was supposed to be filming a segment about women reclaiming their power. You know what the biggest lesson of all this has been? I moved to my filming setup, adjusting the camera. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones most afraid of your success. What are you doing? Eric stepped forward. Creating content. I hit record. Tell me, Lorraine, why did you really come to Paris? To support me? Or because your son's firm is bleeding clients after trying to silence a woman for choosing her career over conformity? Turn that off, she snapped, mask cracking. No. I stood straighter. You wanted to be part of my story? Here's your chance. Tell my viewers why you thought destroying someone's dreams was an acceptable form of family love. This is ridiculous. Eric moved toward the camera, but I blocked him. Touch my equipment and I'll add harassment to the documentary I'm making about toxic family dynamics. I'm sure Netflix will love that angle. Lorraine stood, composure finally shattering. You ungrateful. Grateful. I let my voice rise, knowing the camera caught every word. For what? For teaching me that true family supports instead of suppresses? For showing me that success is the best revenge? Thank you, truly. I couldn't have built this new life without your attempts to destroy my old one. Eric, Lorraine turned to her son. Are you going to let her speak to us this way? But Eric was staring at me, really seeing me maybe for the first time. You never needed our help, did you? No, I said softly. I only needed you to believe in me. Both of you. But you couldn't handle a version of me that didn't fit your mold. This isn't over. Lorraine grabbed her bag. Actually, it is. I gestured to the door. My crew will be here soon to film. Unless you'd like to stay and explain to them why you're here. They left without another word, but as the door closed, I heard Lorraine's sharp intake of breath. Through the window, I watched them hurry past the cafe where my camera crew was already setting up. I touched my phone, stopping the recording. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about letting people witness their own toxicity, perfectly framed and in focus. 1 year later, I stood in front of a packed auditorium in New York, preparing to screen the final episode of my Netflix series. The show had exceeded everyone's expectations, becoming a rallying cry for women fighting to define success on their own terms. Mia sat in the front row, beaming, while Jackson filmed from the side, probably for his own documentary about independent creators. The energy in the room crackled with anticipation. Then I saw her slip in through the back door. Lorraine, looking smaller somehow, clutching a familiar leather-bound notebook I recognized from her college days. The art portfolio she'd never shown anyone. I began my introduction. A year ago, I thought losing everything meant the end of my story. Instead, it was just the beginning. The lights dimmed, and the episode began to play. Afterward, during the Q&A, a young woman stood up. What would you say to the people who tried to stop you? Before I could answer, another voice cut through the crowd. Lorraine had made her way to the microphone. I can answer that, she said, her voice wavering. Because I was one of them. The room went silent. My heart pounded as she opened her portfolio, pulling out a yellowed piece of paper. 40 years ago, I got accepted to art school in Paris. Her hands shook. My mother tore up the acceptance letter. Said proper women don't abandon their families for foolish dreams. She looked directly at me. I became the very thing I hated because it was easier than admitting I was wrong. I gripped the podium, unsure whether this was another manipulation or something real. The firm filed for bankruptcy last month, she continued. Eric's starting over at a smaller company. He's happier, actually, away from my influence. She managed a small smile. Your success didn't destroy us, Avery. It freed us. After the event, I found her waiting by the exit, clutching her portfolio like a shield. These are good, I said, glancing at the sketches she'd finally shared. Really good. I'm taking classes now, she admitted. Local art studio. Baby steps. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that your revenge wasn't just about proving us wrong. It was about proving that it's never too late to be right. She handed me an envelope. I wrote this months ago, but never had the courage to send it. Later that night, in my hotel room, I opened her letter. Pages of confessions, regrets, and finally, understanding. The last line caught in my throat. Thank you for showing me that the dreams we bury don't die. They just wait for someone brave enough to dig them up again. My phone buzzed with a text from Eric. Saw your finale. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry it took losing you to find myself. I didn't respond, but I did open my laptop and start typing. Dear followers, let me tell you a story about revenge. Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that rebuilds. The kind that shows others how to break free from their own cages. Mia called as I was finishing the post. You okay? That was intense with Lorraine. Yeah, I looked out at the New York skyline. You know what's funny? I spent so long trying to prove them wrong, I never considered that maybe what they needed was someone to prove it was okay to change. So what's next for the great Avery Quinn? I smiled, thinking of Lorraine's art portfolio, Eric's new start, and my own journey. I'm thinking of doing a series about late bloomers. People finding their passion after everyone told them it was too late. Revenge by inspiration? Mia laughed. Very you. No, I corrected her, watching the sun set over the city. Not revenge. Revolution. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about everyone finding their own path to freedom, even the ones who tried to clip your wings. Because in the end, the greatest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in proving to yourself that you were right all along.